From the 11 Alive studios, this is The Georgia Vote with Faith Jessie and Zach Merchant.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to The Georgia Vote. Zach Merchant is off this week for the holiday. But today we are covering two stories that made headlines this holiday week: the 2020 election interference case in Fulton County and Marjorie Taylor Greene's decision to leave Congress. We began with the news that came out the day before Thanksgiving. A Georgia prosecutor and a Fulton County judge agreed to end the investigation into President Donald Trump and 14 others. The prosecutor, Pete Scandalakis, said the alleged criminal conduct in the 2020 election interference case was conceived in Washington, not in the state of Georgia. He wrote the federal government as the appropriate venue. In a one-page order, Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee signed off on it. Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis brought the racketeering case in August of 2023, more than 2 years ago, alleging a criminal plan to overturn the results of the 2020 election. But it started to go south after scrutiny of a romantic relationship Willis had with the special prosecutor she hired to help with the case. A court later removed her from the case, which led to Scandalakis taking the case himself. The decision by Scandalakis to not move forward with this case came in a more than 20-page document in which he came to the conclusion the case should be prosecuted at the federal level, not in Georgia. He also wrote it would be costly and illogical to try the remaining 14 defendants without the president. We're going to talk more about this decision with our Politics Roundtable in about 5 minutes. Well, it's been a little more than a week since Marjorie Taylor Greene announced she would leave Congress in January. Her supporters say they are still recovering from the shock of that news. 11 Alive's Doug Richards spoke with voters in Greene's home district who say they don't blame President Donald Trump for pushing her out of Congress.
I'm a Q follower.
Mary Pollard says she's serious about QAnon and serious about supporting her Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who talked up Q early in her political career.
It's not QAnon, it's Q.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The anons are the ones that decode it.
As an elected official, Greene pivoted away from Q and toward Donald Trump. But Greene's recent criticism of Trump and other Republicans on health care, on the Epstein files, drove the president to pull his support for Greene. Rather than continue the conflict, Greene announced her surprise resignation.
I don't know why she did that. Because we voted her in for, for our community to help us and to, help the people.
We found her supporters reluctant to take sides in a dispute between the president and his one-time loyalist from Northwest Georgia.
It hurt my heart because I love them both.
Jackie Harling says she worked hard to elect Greene and Trump.
I don't think that bullying made Marjorie quit. Marjorie has been bullied since the day she put her hat in the ring for this race. In politics, if you're going to step into that ring, you're going to get bullied.
I think President Trump bullies a lot of people for reasons that we don't always understand.
But is that okay?
Sometimes yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes yes.
In Dalton, Doug Richards, 11 Alive News.
We do know Governor Brian Kemp must set a date for a special election to replace Congresswoman Greene, which would likely be in late February or early March. Now, because 2026 is a midterm year, voters in District 14, they could be sent to the polls up to 5 times to fill that seat. So first you'd have the special election to fill the remainder of Greene's term through January of 2027. If we have a crowded field of candidates, we'll likely have a special election runoff. And then you have the primary election in May to decide the candidates for a full 2-year term beginning in 2027. If that goes to a runoff, it'll mark the 4th election for the seat. And then you still have the general election on November 3rd, marking the 5th time District 14 could be asked to vote on that seat. Well, December is a good month to be a Georgia voter, and starting Tuesday, there are 3 straight weeks of either special or runoff elections. On Tuesday, voters will decide runoff elections in Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, Carroll, and Douglas counties. On the ballot, mayoral runoffs in East Point, Roswell, Sandy Springs, and South Fulton. There are 2 runoffs for Atlanta City Council and 3 for the Atlanta Board of Education. All Atlanta voters can participate in the runoff for the district 8 at-large seat. And earlier this fall, I spoke with both finalists in this race, Casey Brock and Royce Mann. What's your day one priority?
Oh my goodness, our literacy proficiency rates. If you've ever been in a classroom, if anyone listening has ever been in a classroom, the toughest moment as a teacher is when a student can't access the information. As you'd imagine, that leads to so much when it comes to mental health, to behavior challenges, to just how a student feels about themselves as a student. That's really that first step, is when they can't read. Right now, our literacy proficiency rates, it's close to 30%, yet our graduation rate is around 90%. And even though we're celebrating that, there's obviously a really big gap there.
My priority is to ensure that we stay laser focused on student outcomes here in Atlanta, and that we build coalition with other local districts across the state and fight for the funding and freedom that we deserve as local school districts. We need board members who are willing to take that fight from the board dais to the streets, to the Gold Dome, and even to the federal level if we need that.
Once the first race is decided on Tuesday night, join Zach Merchant and myself along with some special guests for our live runoff coverage. It will stream on 11 Alive Plus Tuesday night. Time now for our political roundtable. Today, making his debut on the Georgia Vote is Alan English. He is the past president and president-elect of the Atlanta Young Republicans. And returning panelist, Devin Barrington-Ward, a progressive community organizer, political activist, and managing director of the Black Futurist Group. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome to panel, Alan. Welcome back, Devin. You guys, we have to start off with probably the biggest news of this week. All charges in this Fulton County election interference case dropped. Some people say when President Trump got elected, the writings were on the walls. Devin, I want to start with you, your reaction. I'm
not surprised by this. The fact of the matter is that I think that it was a strong case. I think we had a bad prosecutor from the jump, in the sense that District Attorney Willis was compromised. And when you are going after a current president or a former president, you have to make sure that all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, and that there's your ethics are above board, and that there's no questions about the ability of your office to be able to prosecute this case. And so the relationship with Nathan Wade, really compromised her ability to move this case forward. And so I think that I'm not surprised by the decision to drop the charges, because, once we found out about how her office was compromised with the relationship with one of her a consultant that she hired for this case, that it was going to be an uphill battle from that point to really see this through full prosecution and into a courtroom.
Now, Alan, a lot of Republicans said that this case from the jump was a political move, politically motivated case. What is your takeaway from now all of these charges being dismissed?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with Devin. I'm not surprised that this was dropped, and I also agree that I think Fonnie Willis is a terrible prosecutor with a terrible case. This, like you said, from the very beginning, this was all politically motivated. You have a liberal prosecutor, you have a Democrat base that's upset just upset with some alleged actions that some Republicans took, and you have a prosecutor come in who's respected on both sides of the aisle, that takes a look at this case that was put together and says, hey, listen, this is all, for lack of a better term, trumped up. This is not an actual case.
And I will add, he took it on after he went to about 7 people who said, we don't want to touch it.
Well, they don't want to touch it, and the reason is because it's not a valid case. I mean, I think justice was served this week by having this case dropped, and I just frankly feel bad for the people of Fulton County who've been on the hook for the past 5 years to pay for this, and are going to be on the hook for all these legal bills that come up in the next few months as well.
And you make a valid point. David, go ahead and respond.
I'll push back some in the sense that I don't think that it was a trumped up case. I have previously been a candidate for office, and I know that I can't call an election official and say that I'm looking for 11,000 votes and some change.
Well, I mean, he didn't really say he was looking. He said, I wish I could find
play
some,
back
but,
the call.
But he did not tell an election official that he needed to go find. He did not tell an election official to go find. He said, I wish I could find some. But the prosecutor
said, we just need to find 11,000.
We can play the tape. There was a tape. It was played with Secretary Raffensperger. But Devin, let's continue your point, and then we'll get to you.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think that the case was a bad case. I think it actually is quite simple. You can't pressure election officials to find you additional votes. It's pretty clear. That's kind of one of the first things they teach you in campaign school when you're running for office, is not to pressure election officials to do anything that would be perceived or is actually unlawful. And so I don't think that it was necessarily the quality of the case. I do think that it was the quality of the prosecutor that was prosecuting the case. And that is where he and I differ.
And there are some people who do agree with this, saying that all of this happened. The president and his co-defendants are not getting any type of slap on the wrist for this, any type of punishment for it. But then there's other people who disagree with it and agree with you as well. We have about 60 seconds here, and I want to get you all's take on Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. But just one quick response, and then we'll get to your take on that. Your response to Devin.
Yeah, I look, at the end of the day, we can agree that the case is over. I'm glad that it happened, but I'm glad that it's over. But Republicans are very pleased to see this case get dismissed by this guy. Prosecutor takes a look at a case, determines that it is completely trumped up, and throws it out. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm glad that it's over with.
And we will see, I did speak with Trump's attorney, Mr. Sadow, who says that he and all of the attorneys will be pursuing those legal fees with the Senate bill that was passed this year. Let's take a break right now, gentlemen. We will continue this conversation because I want to hear your thoughts on Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene deciding to leave Congress. Stay with us. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Well, the runoff election for State Senate District 35 is 2 weeks from Tuesday. 2 Democrats will vie for the seat vacated by Jason Estevez when he decided to run for governor. Well, over the next 2 weeks, we will sit down with both candidates, Roger Bruce and Jaha Howard. I spoke with Howard this week. Why are you a better candidate than Mr. Bruce?
That's an interesting question. I think right now, I think I speak for the people a little bit more accurately and in line with what people want. People want fresh, bold leadership. People want a fighter. People want integrity. People want experience, the right kind of experience, and people who have an ear to the ground and listens to people and understanding the moment.
If you get the job, what's your top priority day one going in?
Everything costs too much. Affordability in every single way. How many times do you go to the grocery store and just can't believe how much basic things cost? Our bills, our utilities, everything costs too much, and trust is too low. So that's a terrible combination when it comes to trusting our institutions, especially our government. So we have to build trust. We have to make sure we're holding the powerful accountable, but we also have to make sure we take these things very seriously and not just give talking points and just email blasts to people. We have to really get some work done.
We know that you've run for several different seats in Georgia: Senate, school board, state superintendent, county commission. Now you're running for Senate again. What do you say to some voters who might feel that you are chasing a title rather than committing to one community role?
Yeah, all I'm chasing is to serve my God. This is about ministry, and I serve where there is an opportunity, and I serve however I can. When people ask a couple of follow-up questions, they'll realize that we were in our office organizing parents about public education, and then our state senator at the time was pushing public money for private vouchers. Nobody was running against him. I look around, I say, well, I'm not going to just let him run unopposed, so I run for state senate. So it wasn't about the seat, it's about the situation at hand. I think it's fair to say, you know what, this district deserves excellent representation with integrity, with boldness. And what we're not going to do is have a placeholder, somebody may be saving a seat for a friend, and all the things that you find out when you start asking a few questions. We're not playing those games. These are people that I grew up with. These are the people that I live with. These are my patients. These are our families. These are some of our grandparents. It's not a game. So people can say, oh, some say this, some say that. They can say what they want. There's work to be done, and I move with urgency. And if the Lord has blessed me with good health and good mind, good strength, and as long as my wife is in support, we move, and we do what we need to do and take care of business. And so I'm excited about representing the citizens of District 35.
Thank you. And I want to be mindful of your time, but I do want to point something out really quick. Are you saying that Mr. Bruce is running for this to be a placeholder for one of his friends?
It's clear. Those conversations are clear. People who know anything about politics behind the scenes, they know.
What do they know?
They know. And when you ask him, he can tell you.
Okay.
I don't know if you'll get a full, straight answer, but that's the kind of thing that people are tired of. They're tired of games. And anybody who knows anything about Georgia politics in this area knows that there's nothing but games being played behind the scenes, and voters are tired of it.
Our full interview with Jaha Howard is streaming on 11 Alive Plus, and next week on the Georgia Vote, we sit down with his opponent, Roger Bruce, to get his vision for that District 35 seat. Back with our panel now, and I do want to just briefly get your thoughts on what you all just heard from.
Based on what I've heard, that is an accurate assessment, that the other opponent is serving as a placeholder, if you will, for someone else who is didn't meet the qualifying period and would like to run for the seat in the future.
Well, those are Devin's thoughts. Interesting to see. Would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, look, you might be right, you might not be. I just know the people of State Senate District 35 will make a decision for themselves, and we just got to respect whatever decision that they make.
And we will be hearing from Mr. Bruce next week. I want to tee you all back up for the conversation we left off before. Marjorie Taylor Greene says that she will resign in January, and it comes after some tension between her and President Donald Trump. Let me get your thoughts on this. I mean, people in her district saying they don't blame the president here. They like them both.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough situation. I'll be honest, I was very surprised to see the news earlier this week. You know, she's been, as we all know, one of the strongest and most staunch supporters of the president's in Congress. And until recently, you know, she's supported virtually everything that he's done, and kind of came under fire in the last few weeks or few months for not supporting some of his initiatives. And now she's gone. And look, I mean, I can't blame her for wanting to get out of Congress. I mean, it is probably the least efficient place in the world to be. So I'm not really surprised to see her go. You know, I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that Congress is what it is. I mean, we just come off the heels of the longest government shutdown in American history. The American people deserve a lot better. So I certainly can't blame her for wanting to get back and spend some time with her family away from all the chaos in Washington.
And I mean, how long will she be spending time away? Because some people speculate she could be setting up to run for something else, Devin.
Well, I think it's interesting. You know, Brian Kemp has shown Republicans that you can have somewhat of an independent streak, that you don't have to just co-sign everything that the president does and says, and that you can still have a political career. I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene, while we have had vehement disagreements on policy, over the last few months, I think she has shifted in a direction that a good majority of independent voters are in right now, which is that the problem in Washington is that the president sold people a particular vision when he was running for office that is not actually being shown in the actual policies that are coming out of this White House. So when it's come to issues around affordability, when it's come to issues around, quote unquote, putting America first, you can't put America first when you're giving hundreds and billions of dollars in bailouts to Argentina and, you know, waging an unpopular war in the Middle East with Israel. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene, rightfully so, called those things out, and that put her in contention with the president. Other Republicans will just fall in line with this president. She's shown that she has somewhat of an independent streak, which may make her particularly interesting candidate if she does decide to run for governor next year.
Now, let me ask, because Donald Trump is on his way out, right? Will that same hold be on Republicans when Devin says Republicans will fall in line and fall behind Donald Trump? Do you agree with that going into the midterm?
Well, look, I mean, you get into the lame duck session, you know, I don't know that. I mean, I think it's going to be a question of, you know, who is going to take the flag and who's going to move forward as the new leader of the party. I do expect to see people continue to believe what they've said that they believe. It might not be just because the president said that, but it might be because they are conservative Republicans. They're in Congress, and they're going to continue to do the things that they were doing. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, gentlemen, we're out of time. Every single week, we could talk forever. Thank you so much for being at the table this holiday week.
Yes.
And thank you all so much for being back with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Earlier in the show, we mentioned that Georgia voters, depending on where you live, could be very busy in the next 3 weeks. In addition to those Fulton County mayor races and the Atlanta Council and School Board runoffs, here's what else is on the line. Sandy Spring voters will decide the District 4 council seat. There are 2 council seats up for grabs in South Fulton and 1 in Stonecrest. And there's a runoff for the open state house seat in Gwinnett County's District 106. And there are council runoffs in Duluth, Marietta, and Villa Rica. And then 2 special elections on December 9th. Voters in Cherokee County will vote for a new representative from District 23 after the passing of Representative Mandy Ballinger. And voters in Athens, Clark County, and Oconee counties, they will select a new representative for District 121. 1 week later, the runoff for State Senate District 35 in Fulton and Cobb counties. Stay with us, a very special Voice of the Voter segment. That's coming up next. Welcome back. We say it every week. You can't have the Georgia vote without Georgia voters, right? And this holiday weekend, we are thankful for all of you, the Georgia voters who join us and watch us each and every Sunday morning. Here's a look at some of our voices from 2025 so far. How do you all feel that our elected officials are helping or hurting right now when it comes to just life in Georgia and your chocolate factory here?
Well, at the federal level, obviously the tariff situation is playing a pretty immediate impact. Even though some of the tariffs have gone on pause, there is a general sense of us just not knowing where things are going to land.
I feel brokenhearted. I feel brokenhearted because there are certain tenets of how we treat each other and how we amplify that through government, and all of those accords have been fractured.
What worries you the most? Education, my kids. I want to future-proof my kids, and I don't necessarily think that the education system is caught up to the pace that we're going right now.
Brandon, what would you say you're most concerned about right now?
I mean, the growth is probably the biggest thing. You know, when you think about the World Cup coming here, I think we're a host city. I think we have 8 games coming up in just a couple of years. Every game is essentially the size of a Super Bowl. And so when you really think about that, it's 8 Super Bowls that are getting ready to happen in Atlanta, and we need public transportation. But even more important than that, we need a place to send all these people.
I think a lot of these officials are very focused on the win by any means and not paying attention to the consequences of getting this win.
Like cost of groceries, cost of gas, cost of living. The economy is terrible right now.
We always end with this. What are you most optimistic about?
All the people that I get to have come in there again, I have people from all walks of life in the world. I truly believe the Lord and everyone is working back in that same direction of bringing people back together. So even if maybe from a political side that can be a struggle sometimes, I definitely think in the great means of life that it is truly coming back together.
We are hoping we can all come together. Thank you so much for watching us today. Hope your bellies are full of turkey and you had a great holiday week. We hope to see you back here next Sunday at 11 for another edition of the Georgia Vote. See you then.